and welcome to the Tuktu Community Voices Podcast. I'm your host, Rustam. And for those of you who've just joined today or are new to our podcast, I'm the founder and CEO of Tuktu. And we are a platform that helps families connect with companions and service providers from their neighborhood for all kinds of non-medical care. If you need somebody to drive you to the hospital, or you need somebody to fix your computer or some technology help at home, or just companionship, household help, you can come on to tuktu.us and find a care provider or a companion or a friend for you to do that. Today, I'm very excited. Excited because I have my good friend Chris here as our special guest. And I can just tell you why I was so excited to invite him. When I moved to Vermont, as a lot of you know, about 6 months back, I was looking for people who had deep expertise in this space, and really understood what the constraints are, what the opportunities are, and essentially what it took to build businesses or work in this industry in the state of Vermont. And I was very fortunate to bump into Chris, and he was extremely knowledgeable and helpful, and I thought that it would be wonderful to invite him over and get him to share his knowledge and his experience with the rest of us. So thanks so much, Chris, for joining us today. I'm super fortunate. Maybe we'll get started with a little bit of an introduction about what you do and why you do that.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate the time. What we do at Care Patrol in Vermont is we work with families throughout the state when a senior loved one either can't safely live at home anymore or doesn't want to live at home anymore. So we help the family through the whole process of finding if they need other senior living sources such as independent living, assisted living, memory care if there's dementia, home health services if they can safely stay at home and need additional services. And we also help with respite care for short-term stays as well. And really the reason why I'm doing this is through personal experience with a family and my own family actually, and helping them through this process.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And most of us in this sector are driven by a personal story or a personal mission. Maybe let's double tap that a little bit, because this is a tough industry to be in.
Sure.
It's a difficult space. It's not well understood. The amount of knowledge and information is quite low in my experience. So what drew you to this industry, and what drew you to Care Patrol and the unique model that you have?
Sure. So I've spent 20 plus years in the tech industry. Wow. So a completely different background than what I'm doing now.
But we have that in common.
Yes, exactly. And so like I said, I went through a personal experience with my wife's family. We had to find assisted living for her parents very quickly, and I watched the process that she went through. And as I was transitioning out of the tech world, I was looking at other business opportunities, other things that I could potentially do. And when I watched her go through this process, I said, geez, there has to be a better way to help families through this process. And it's not just finding assisted living or something like that. It's other resources. Like there's legal issues, there's financial issues, there's estate issues, there's all different pieces, and I can kind of connect those people. And so when I met the team at Care Patrol, which is a national company, 240 locations throughout the US and Canada, I met the co-founders and the owners. I fell in love with them. I fell in love with their business process. And because I don't have a background necessarily in the healthcare space, I really needed that partnership, and they've been amazing to work with. And it just became a great fit for me, and a great fit for Vermont, honestly, because
Wonderful.
We don't have a lot of resources like this.
No, thanks for sharing that. Chris is the Vermont owner of Care Patrol. And I can endorse that it's one of the very good companies in this sector doing really valuable work. So, kudos to you and your team and the founders as well. Chris, I wanted to draw on something you mentioned, that you went through a period where you needed help and you needed it immediately. A lot of us go through that, and it's a really unique, I think, a really unique experience, because you don't know these needs are there till they affect you, right? Like for my personally, I came in because my dad was going through something, and I mean, you're way knowledgeable. I was a tech guy as well, but I had zero knowledge in the sector, right? I didn't even know what is the difference between assisted living and memory care and everything else
Sure.
is. So when families come to you, they are in a state of emergency, right? And they need something urgently, but they have a significant lack of knowledge. Just maybe share with us what you go through. What are the emotions that you have to, I wouldn't say deal with, but what you experience, and at that point, what do you feel that, hey, this would be so much better if they had this piece of information before they came to me?
Sure. So it's a really good question, and it's one I've had to try to work my way through. The emotions are raw. It's oftentimes 60% of the calls that we get at Care Patrol are emergencies. So we have to act very quickly. The family is in disarray. There's, like I said before, there's legal implications, there's financial implications. What do we do with the house? There's all kinds of different things, and you're dealing with the emotions of a loved one who may be in the hospital or maybe in a follow-up subacute rehab situation. So you're dealing with a lot of different things, and oftentimes you're dealing with multiple children or multiple.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's just managing that part of the process, explaining a little bit about my situation and how I went through it, and explaining the process that we follow at Care Patrol to help them find the solutions that they need that are good fits for them. And then really spend a lot of time on the discovery part of like, what's going on, what happened, are they capable of going home, do they need home health services, what are their needs? And then we try to sort of back that into a potential solution for them.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of sounds like a single window consulting slash, how do you call it? The human version of ChatGPT for senior care, right?
It's very human focused for sure.
Yeah.
And the fact that I'm here in Vermont and I know the difference between Bennington and Burlington, I can really help guide families wherever they may be to the solutions that they need.
Absolutely. Those of you who don't know, Bennington and Burlington are 3 hours apart.
That's right.
I made that mistake and started driving towards one direction when I need to go the other one.
You could spend a whole day.
And just that little piece of knowledge is so amazing, right? Chris, I mean, you spoke a little bit about the families. I mean, is there something you can extend to the communities, right? Like what do communities need to know about this, and how do you spread the message around in the communities? I mean, we work with communities, and that's why the question.
Sure. So that's what I do every day. I spend a lot of time at senior centers, at events that are focused towards seniors. I'm really, at this stage of the business, all about advocacy and education.
Mm-hmm.
And that, for me, starts with the adult children in a lot of cases. So I do a lot of talks around the state, different groups, whether it's BNI or whether it's a Rotary Club or something like that, to educate the adult children so that they have the resources that they can go to when they need it, whether it's me or whether it's one of your 5 area agencies on aging throughout Vermont, or whether it's the Alzheimer's Association if your loved one has dementia or Alzheimer's. So just trying to provide people with the education and information that they need so that they're not just becoming completely overwhelmed when something happens.
Wonderful. And now we have you on the Tuktu platform for those who
That's right.
sign up. So maybe share a little bit about what you educate. I know you communicate really well, and I've always loved your advice. But how do you go about starting people into a process of understanding basic things like what's memory care, what's assisted living, what's that?
Sure.
And how do you explain it to a layman? Like
Sure.
just so that assume that. And I am actually quite
Sure.
low knowledgeable on that. But if I come to you, how do you break that? Because I notice when I talk to you, you do it with a lot of dignity, with a lot of empathy.
Sure.
But how would you help if I was coming to you today?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So again, I try to go back to the discovery to understand what their care needs are. And we focus on really the 8 dimensions of wellness. So it's the whole person, not just what their care needs are. So we try to understand things like, what do they like to do? What did they do for work before they retired? So that we can try to figure out the right environment for them. And then what I do is I explain the differences between what independent living is. Assisted living typically is you need assistance with 2 or more of the 5 major activities of daily living, like bathing or cooking or grooming. And then when you step up into sort of dementia or Alzheimer's or something like that, then you have to look at memory care and higher care needs. So it's really delving in with the family to understand what the care needs are today, and then trying to project that into the future so that you don't pigeonhole somebody into one situation and then they have to move again in 3 or 5 years. So we really try to focus on that and have a bit of a vision as much as possible. You can't predict the future, obviously.
And it's about building the strategy, co-creating a strategy
Absolutely.
with them for future, right? I think that's so beneficial. And you mentioned it quite well. It also needs not just expertise, but being able to do it in a way that it's easy to understand and maintains their dignity. It's kind of like selling life insurance. You're kind of giving them a need that is always going to be there, and they know it's there, but you've got to be nuanced about how you present it, right?
Yeah, and a lot of older people especially have this vision of the nursing home that grandma or grandpa or their great aunt lived in back in the 60s and 70s, and they have that vision in their mind. And that is one thing that I really try to educate them on, is it's really not like that.
You got to meet my dad, and even if I mention, and he has dementia, and they still live at home, thankfully.
Sure.
But even if I mention about assisted living or any memory care, he gets pretty upset, and that's because he's very independent. He's never needed help. And I see that common factor in Vermont as well, where people are robustly independent. But I also notice what's unique about Vermont is they have that inbuilt community-centric focus, right? Is that something you experience, and how does that make Vermont a little different from maybe outside the country, maybe when you're talking to your folks and friends from the care patrols around?
It does change. My dad lives in Boston. I'm in the business. He needs to start considering the next step. He's just like your dad. Doesn't want to hear anything of it. Here in Vermont, it is a little bit different. I think there is much more of a community angle to the way that we approach things here. I see it, especially with the folks that I work with that are in home health, where they can safely remain at home. They have neighbors that come and check on them. They have friends that stop by. Their family, if they're not living here in Vermont or they're not close, they still call in and check. And then there's senior centers. There's a vibrant senior center community here in Vermont that people can go to and and participate in whatever activities are interesting to them. So there is a very big community effort here, and you see it at events that are focused on seniors. You see it at the Walk to End Alzheimer's, where literally thousands of people show up in support of this. So we see this quite a bit in Vermont, and it's really enlightening to see.
Yeah, it's terrific. I remember the Alzheimer's walk that you're talking about. That was my first time going to like a community event in Vermont, and I was surprised to see so many people, because it's a small city, and you don't see that many people on the road, or and it was just beautiful. It's delightful. I think we walked around the Shelburne Museum. And I felt such a sense of kinship with everybody else around, right?
Absolutely.
So thanks for sharing that. To move on to like some of the practical stuff, right?
Sure.
Like families, it's tough to have a budget to plan for your aging or to plan for a loved one's aging. How do you navigate around that space, and what's so unique with Care Patrol and with yourself in both dealing with these practical aspects about how much it costs, and what are the sacrifices they have to make, and how would you advise on that?
Yeah, so I try to be, first of all, very upfront. Assisted living, memory care, even independent living in Vermont is very expensive, just like housing in general, and we're dealing with that entire problem. So I try to educate them on what the costs are for the various care needs that are out there and the options. So we try to address the financial piece in conjunction with the discovery portion. So we're trying to learn about their care needs, but also what are their budgets and their financial constraints. And oftentimes they don't know that or they may not be aware or forgot that they bought a long-term care insurance policy, which can offset the costs quite a bit. If he or she was a veteran of a foreign war and served during wartime, there's a VA benefit. So it's just educating people not only on the costs where you have to sell a home potentially or use retirement income or anything like that, but what are the other things that are available that can help defray and offset the costs of these various living options here.
And I think that's very valuable, and thank you for doing that, because a lot of time when we are, one of the reasons we are scared to talk about this topic, at least I've noticed with my dad and all, is he feels that there's going to be a big invoice, in the end, and that's going to saddle him. And often enough at this stage, he's not very cognizant with all the stuff that he's done or saved up, and the house is obviously the biggest piece of saving. Right. Don't want to give it up, move to a new community, and there's so many variables, right?
Yes.
And you don't want money to be another one. So right. I appreciate you navigating people through that. When you look at this sector, and you kind of alluded to that, like we have these challenges with housing and all these kind of things.
Sure.
If you could pick one change that you would do, because you've been around for now a few years, if there's one thing that you could change, let's say I make you governor tomorrow, and you could change this one thing which would really make life better for the folks that you're supporting, what is this one thing that you'd want to do? And I'd love to take your voice across the state on this.
Yeah, so the thing that I keep asking legislators, it's funny that you asked that question, is I would fund more low-income senior housing, and I would provide incentives for private developers to develop private investment communities as well. We just don't have enough availability, which drives up the cost for everyone. So I think that's the one thing that would take a long time, obviously, but that's one thing that I would change, is the whole environment around financing low income and private investment.
That's brilliant. And I think that's even beyond Vermont. Like coming from British Columbia, that's a challenge there as well. Absolutely. Zoning laws are really, really hard. Building costs are really high. Right. Building time is really high. Same problem with California when I went to school there.
Yes.
Cost to build something, the time to build it, matching that with, just not having enough housing for anybody, but also more importantly, low-cost housing for seniors is such an important thing for all of us to think together, right?
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you highlighting on that. Chris, I would not be smart if I don't ask you a selfish question here. You heard about us, you heard about Tuktu, you know what we do. We try to find help, essentially the way you're talking about. We try to find help for people who are living at home or in an independent living institution, any kind of non-medical support through companions in their neighborhood. We have a smart matchmaking algorithm. I want to get your perspective about what you feel, where we bring the value, and what we should watch out for, and where do you think that it makes you feel that, hey, these guys are worth talking to?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question, but I think there's definitely an opportunity to educate the adult children and the assisted living communities throughout Vermont on your service. So just to give you a very specific example, I have a family member who's living in assisted living here in Vermont, and she's constantly calling for my printer's out of ink, or I need a ride to the doctor.
I've heard that one before.
I need a ride to the doctor or the senior center to play bridge, and the bus isn't available when I need it. So being able to empower her to be able to use your platform, or her daughter to be able to do that, rather than driving an hour each way to come and do those small chores, I think that's the opportunity from what I see. And so when I'm in communities, I'm talk to all the time to the residents primarily, but when I interact with their adult children, I make them aware of it as well, because I think could be an invaluable service to them going forward, beyond the transportation that's available to them today, and the services that are available.
Thank you so much for doing that. That's we do well when we have champions like Chris around. Chris, thank you so much for sharing everything. Last question, of course, which we all always ask is, please recommend a book or a movie or a podcast that you'd love our listeners to listen to, or which got you excited last week or
Oh, there's so many books, especially around dementia and Alzheimer's. I've been fascinated just by reading on that. We have, through Care Patrol, our national account, our national website, we have a podcast called My Care Advisors, which can educate people as you're driving to work or running errands on all these different topics about how to think about planning, financing, what are the elements to look for. So there's lots of podcasts out there. There's lots of great books. I don't have a specific one off the top of my head, but there's definitely resources there.
Wonderful. So we'll check out the Care Patrol blog page and the podcast page. And with that, we say a big thank you, Chris. This was really informative. And of course, if anybody needs information about Chris or contact information, please drop us a message or a mail and we will forward that to Chris. Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time, Rustam.
Appreciate it.